the use of free verse poetry in particular,
Okay.
because I think that's a limited, like the idea that it has to have a meter and a rhyme structure. That's a limiting thing for boys and for anybody to write poetry. But if you have this understanding that it really can just be an idea that you get out, um, and play with the words a little bit, that's poetic.
Hello, I'm Derek Cash with the North Little Rock Public Library System and want to welcome you to Meet the Author. Joining us today is award-winning journalist, novelist, and editor of the Courier newspaper of Russellville, Arkansas, T.L. Simpson, to discuss and reflect on his debut novel from 2024, Strong Like You. Following the journal entries, writing assignments, and poetry of teenage football star Walker Lauderdale, Strong Like You tells an engrossing story as Walker attempts a desperate search across the hills of the Ozarks for his missing father. Strong Like You weaves an emotional tale well suited for young adults that punches above its weight class. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm very appreciative and very
Okay.
honored to be
All
here.
right. Well, it's a pleasure. Yes. All right. I think I'll just start out with really a heavy duty question that maybe you can comment on. I think probably to me, what struck me, the significant theme of the book was what is it like to be a young man and how is a young man supposed to act? Uh, how would you comment on that?
Yeah, so I always say that Strong Like You is sort of a deconstruction of toxic ideas about what it means to be a man. So Walker Lauderdale, it's more about it is about what it means to be a young man, but it's also more about just what it means to be a strong person.
Hmm.
We have a lot of mixed up ideas that society tells us, that our fathers teach us, our parents teach us about what it means to be a man. And so Walker is this kid who thinks that strength comes from a lot of those traditional things like never crying and being physically dominant and closing off his emotions and things like that. And so the story is really about him kind of tearing all that down and learning to build back something better.
Something else I thought, I mean, the book is full of, to me, disparate themes which blend and work very well. Another theme I found was poetry. I just couldn't believe when you started getting into it in the book. It works, but it's just a beautiful way of what you do. You you had a good analysis of poetry where you say if someone else reads what you write, then they can know exactly how you feel. And just thought that was just a good analysis of poetry. And I like what how you have Walker's pencil writing around the poems. Literally, you have the poems written in the book and you see the pencil scratching around. I've never seen that done in a book. I thought that was brilliant.
Thank you.
Just so that the reader can see what he's thinking. I like that. And just how'd you get the idea and what made you, to do that visual format?
Yeah, for the poetry itself, the the juxtaposition of this tough kid writing poetry was really appealing to me. And really, like, juxtaposition is a big part, I think, of the whole story, because you have this tough kid who's really, he thinks he's a tough kid, but he's really a sensitive kid. And his counselor is kind of helping coax that out of him.
Mhm.
And the poetry really just came from myself. Like when I was growing up, poetry was how I coped with a lot of things. And so um, assigning that to Walker as a way to explore his vulnerability just seemed to really fit. And then also, I always think it's really funny that a lot of teen boys will balk at the idea of keeping a diary or a journal or writing poetry, but they celebrate rappers and musicians, and all of that is it's all just poetry. So like it's weird to think that this is not for me, or this is just for girls or whatever, but then at the same time you have all these men doing it professionally that you look up to. um and then the bit about adding his handwritten stuff in there, I just really wanted to show how poetry can, like, slowly uh, uh deconstruct the way you think about things. So you just see him in there like picking apart stuff he doesn't understand. And just the fact that he doesn't understand it allows him to start exploring those ideas differently.
Mhm. Well, it was an eye opener for me because I've not really read a lot of poetry, and I've often found it very difficult. So, but when reading your book, you uh, not necessarily accidentally, but you open my eyes to how to interpret and how to understand it, how to appreciate it more. And I'm hoping that people who read this book, especially young men who may be afraid to think about reading poetry, they'll appreciate it too. Because I think you did a good job of, without ramming it into a person's face, hey, open your eyes and become a little bit aware of it. And just, it's very subtle, but I think you did a great job on that. So thank you just for my own self.
Thank you. That means a lot to hear. To know that it impacted that's the first time someone specifically said that the poetry helped them understand poetry better.
Yeah.
Uh, but I did specifically want to talk a little bit about the use of free verse poetry in particular,
Okay.
because I think that's a limited, like the idea that it has to have a meter and a rhyme structure. That's a limiting thing for boys and for anybody to write poetry. But if you have this understanding that it really can just be an idea that you get out, um, and play with the words a little bit. That's poetic.
In the book, Walker says, he quotes, "In thy beauty is the dilemma of flutes." He said, "I don't understand it, and I, Derek, didn't understand it." Are you willing just for a couple of seconds or so, or a minute, but whatever, tell what you think it means, or how do you interpret? Because I just didn't know, but I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah, there's a few layers to that. One is you don't I love the idea that you can hear a sentence that is beautiful like that and not know what it means, and it's still beautiful, and that doesn't take away from its power. But at a deeper level, I this isn't academic. This is my interpretation of
Mhm.
that line. So somebody that studies poetry deeply or studies Cummings deeply may swoop in and be like, "That's not what it means," but this is what it means to me. The dilemma of flutes. The flute is a beautiful sounding instrument when played correctly, but it's also very fragile, and it's also highly capable of making a horrible, shrill, squeaky sounding noise. And so it doesn't play into Chloe the way that he kind of sees it as playing into her, but it plays into the larger theme of the story of because to me, like um, people are like that. Men are like that. They can be beautiful, they can be ugly all at the same time. That
Mm.
juxtaposition I was talking about earlier.
Mhm. Mhm. Another theme that you bring up, and I think because it reflects Arkansas, guns play a major theme in this book. The first thing I want to ask you is, do you shoot guns? Have you ever shot a gun?
I have shotguns before
Uh-huh.
when I was younger. Of course, I grew up in Arkansas, so it's hard to grow up in rural Arkansas without somebody looking at you and saying, "Hey, you want to go shoot some guns?"
Uh-huh.
And so I did do that some when I was a kid, but I dislike guns overall in general. I understand them as like a utility or
Mhm.
as a tool, but like this pervasive gun culture that we
Mhm.
have,
Mhm.
I'm not a big fan of. And so in the book, guns represent sort of a shortcut to strength. Um, so it's sort of just playing again with that theme of like what does it mean to be strong? And so every person I think in the story that picks up a gun it ends up not working out very well for them.
Yes. Uh, okay, along those same lines, it's just whether or not something makes you strong. Football is another theme in the book. Did you play football?
I did.
Okay.
And I also for about 10 years, maybe 12 years before I was the editor of the Courier newspaper, I was the primary sports reporter.
Hmm.
And if you know a lot about newspaper reporting in the modern era, there's no such thing as like a single beat. I didn't wear one hat. I wore multiple hats. So
Oh,
I was
uh-huh.
covering sports, but eventually I was also covering crime. And so Strong Like You was really born out of being on football fields on Fridays or basketball courts and or baseball fields, and then 4 years down the line, I would be in probable cause hearings, and I would see a kid that I covered in high school be brought in handcuffs, facing like drug charges. And so I started really wondering what we did to fail that kid. How could a kid that was so successful on the football field or on the basketball court uh, end up in this situation? What did we do wrong? And and so that's kind of my background with football. I covered it for a long time. I played it a little bit. I wasn't that great at it, but
Hmm.
I did play it. And it is a thing that I wrestle with because on the one hand, it's probably my favorite sport to watch, but on the other hand, I see it as sort of problematic. Um, Whenever you're talking about deconstructing toxic masculinity, I think that it again, it's a juxtaposition or that dichotomy of football. It reinforces a lot of um, those negative stereotypes, but at the same time, for a certain type of kid, that structure can save their life and turn
Yes.
and so it's like you can't just blanket say that it's a bad thing. And it's really fascinating to kind of live in um, that gray area.
Hmm. Yeah. You raise an interesting question in the novel. Walker wants to get to know Chloe, so he asks, "How do you get to know someone new?" And I think that's a very valid question because I think most people today get to know their friends through work, um, and we don't get to know our next door neighbors because we don't know how to get to know them. And I'm so glad you asked that question because it's something that it made me think. What do you ask? How do you do? How do I get to, for John or Mary, how do I get to know you? And so I'm glad you raised that. And I don't know if you have an answer yourself, but I'm just so glad you raised it because it made me think like a verbal slap in the face. I don't know how to tell people, knock on the door if you want to get to know them, I guess.
Yeah, and for Walker specifically, he's talking about somebody that he's kind of attracted to, and he
Yes.
doesn't want he doesn't want to. How do you get to know somebody without coming across as a creep, without being weird about it, without
Hmm.
letting them know that you kind of fancy them a little bit, without it being like scary, because
Hmm.
that it can be a scary situation if you approach a young lady and she's done not wanting to be approached. How do you walk that line, and how do you do it carefully? And I think that's something teen boys, particularly at least ones that care, um, wonder about because they want to be able to establish those friendships without sending the wrong signals.
Yes. And of course, in the novel, I don't want to reveal too much, but it's quite obvious. He doesn't have a father there to help him, and his mother is totally dysfunctional most of the time. And so he's really having to do it all on his own. And so, yes, um, I'll make a comment, but I'm not going to reveal how it. I like how you have Walker's and Chloe's relationship transpire at the end of the book. I won't say what it is, but I thought it was realistic, based on her background and what has happened. I'll just make that comment. I'll say to the person who's watching this video, if you want to know, you got to buy the book or check it out of the library and read it. But I thought you did a very realistic way of how it ended.
Thank you. And
Uh-huh.
I think I can say a little bit without spoiling it. Their
Uh-huh.
relationship, when you're talking to teen boys, I felt like I wanted to explore what consent looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Because in a lot of stories that have a romance element, you may have like the girl says no, but then like the story is like he showed up outside her house with the boombox playing the song. He went to her work. He kept bothering her until finally she said yes. Well, that's not consent. That's not a healthy boundary. So I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to show something that kind of pushed back against that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Poverty is another major theme in this book. And it broke my heart when I found out, when you tell us that Walker does not have a cell phone. I mean, it just seems like everybody's got one, and he's so poor he can't afford one, and he's so poor he has to steal a bicycle, and just it. But when the cell phone, it just you can't help but like Walker, but it just broke my heart when and just because poverty's right, he is poor. Um, Sawyer is poor. They're cousins. A lot of these people in this Arkansas community are poor, and you do a very good job in your face letting the reader know these people are poor.
Yeah, and that's all just based on communities that I've covered football games in, communities that my extended family lives in. I was not destitute growing up, but I always say I was adjacent to poverty growing up, and
Hmm.
so I got a firsthand look at what it's like. And the other thing I think it does is it helps you sympathize with because most of the bad things that Walker does, he has a reason that makes sense for why he would do that. He's
Hmm.
not just being mean when he steals a bike.
Hmm.
He's not,
Yeah. Yes.
so it all kind of he's not just being mean when he gets into a fight with Peyton. Like you
Hmm.
understand
Yes.
these are all coming from desperate places and really tender places in his heart.
Hmm. He is so desperate to find his father, to find out what he did, that he makes some, I think, some stupid decisions. But as you said, you understand why he does. Confronting Lucas, giving him that money. Oh, I hated him for it. I thought, oh, I wanted to slap him. But as you say here in this interview, you understand why he did, because he's so desperate. He wants a father. He wants his father. And just, you write so, I don't know what the adjective is, but you fill in that empty blank so brilliantly that it
Thank
it,
you.
it just hurts. But at the same time, you want to slap him. Don't be stupid, and just comment on that. Although I've done most of the commenting, I think, from my
Yeah.
point of view. But you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think there's so many I think in our lives there's so many times like when we look back on ourselves and the things that we do
Hmm.
that we would say the same things to ourselves. Like, why would you do that? It makes no sense why you would do that because you have the perspective now to see the problem, and all Walker's thinking is I gotta find dad. I've got to take care of mom. I've
Hmm.
got to be the man because dad's gone. And what would the man do? Because he's got again bad ideas about what it means to be a man. And
Hmm.
so that's direct confrontation in Walker's mind.
Hmm. Hmm. I liked. I read a lot, but I have not read a lot of maybe different styles. I like the way you write the book in the sense that Walker is talking to his father, but he's also talking to the audience, or at least or at least that was the impression. And at first, it kind of jarred me a little bit when I was reading the Bible. What is he? I don't understand this. And then it hit me what you were doing. And that to me struck me as being a brilliant way of writing. And I don't know if you went to a writing school or if you just taught yourself to do, but it was just brilliant how he's talking to himself, talking to his father, but also talking to the audience. And you've just got to figure out that's what he's doing. I just thought it was
Yeah.
brilliant.
Thank you. It's not something I learned in people say it's second person, and some people will say it's written in second person. I guess technically it is,
It is,
but
yeah.
I always think of it as being first person, where he just sort of has these asides where he talks to his dad.
Hmm.
Um, but you're exactly right. He's also talking to the audience because I wanted to put the onus back on the reader because these bad ideas that we have about what it means to be strong and the reason someone could exist in destitute poverty like this, that's our fault. We let
Hmm.
that happen as a society. And so when he talks to his dad, he's also, it's meant to bring the reader into it, like we're talking to you too, in a sort of like uh, elbowing kind of way, like
Hmm. Hmm.
hopefully without being cheesy about it.
Hmm. Well, TL, this has just been fabulous. I have thoroughly enjoyed interviewing you. In fact, I like the book so much. I'm going to throw this in. I like the book so much, I bought a copy myself and sent it to a friend in England. And
Ah,
because he writes poetry, and with the exception of maybe the football aspect, I think he'll understand everything else. And just I hope he enjoys the book as much as I did. And I just thought I'd share that
awesome.
with you. I just loved this book. I absolutely loved it. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
If people want to know how to contact you, or if they want to buy a copy of the book, how can they reach you, or how can they buy the book?
They should be able to buy the book anywhere that sells books. And then as far as reaching me, the best way is my website, tlsimpson.net.
Hmm. Okay. All right. Now, I'm going to tell the audience we're going to have T.L. Simpson back again at the library for an in-person interview. This will be on Saturday, August 29th. What you'll need to do is look at the library's website to get more information for the exact day, that sort of thing. We'll talk about Cope Field as well as Strong Like You. And Cope Field is a Printz Honor Book Award winner. So congratulations on that. I did get that right, didn't it? That is
Yes,
the correct.
yes.
Okay, all right. So it will be a great honor to have you. And so I will say adieu, and I will thank everyone here for joining us today. If you're interested in reading Strong Like You can check it out from the library or purchase it wherever books are sold. Also, you can find more information at northstareditions.com or at our website, nlrlibrary.org. Thank you for joining us. Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you next time.